All right, so I just wanted to go over, guys, with you real quick um, what we did yesterday on interpreting graphs. I think first off, we're making it a little harder than what it really is or what I was looking for, okay? So the point of it is when you read your answer, you should be able to have a view of what that graph is and have the data of it without having to look at the graph. So if I just put x-intercept is, in this case, 24, that doesn't really tell me anything. I need to know what that means, what that stands for. So for example, on this first one, it's nonlinear, it's not a straight line. The y-intercept is 24. So I would interpret that as something like the average boy is 24 inches at birth. Okay, that's what that means. There's no x-intercept. It does not cross the x-axis. There's no line symmetry. It's always positive. Okay, so that means the heights are always positive. There is a maxima, and the way that I would put that is the maxima appears to be a maximum of about 72 at about 19. Okay, but what does that mean? That's the part that I want to know. This means that the average boy reaches its maximum height of 72 inches at age 19. Now that would cover the maxima. That would cover the end result of what the graph is doing at the end. So it's that interpreting that is what I'm looking for, okay? Not so much just the data, but what does that graph mean? What does it say, okay? All right, let's look at the next one. So homework number 2 was on the water level. So on the left-hand side, it says what the water level is, and on the bottom, it's time, okay? We can see that it's nonlinear. It's not a straight line. The y-intercept is somewhere around 43, which doesn't tell me anything until I interpret it. So the water level was about 43 centimeters when time started, okay? So when the time started, the water level was at 43 centimeters. That tells me something, okay? There's no x-intercept because it does not touch or cross the x-axis. And if I wanted to explain what that meant, I could say the water level did not reach 0. There's no line symmetry. It's not a straight line. The water level is always positive because it's above the x-axis, and it's decreased the entire time, okay? So water level is always positive and decreased the entire time. And then I could say the graph appears to level off or begin to increase as x increases. So that tells me the end result. So I can visualize that this water started at 43 centimeters. It's always positive, so that means it never went below 0. It was a decreasing. The water kept going down each time. And then it seems that as the graph seems to level off or increase a little bit. So I know that at some point in time, the water is starting to level off. Okay, so interpreting tells me about the graph. All right, wholesale t-shirt order. It's a linear, it's a straight line. The y-intercept is at 50. Again, what does that mean? It means that the setup cost is $50. So when they started making shirts, before they even make any shirts or sell any shirts, it's $50 is what it costs to set up. There's no x-intercept, so at no time is the cost $0, of course. There's no line symmetry. It does not make a mirror copy. It's always positive and always increasing. You could even say it's positive and increasing for x greater than 0 if you want, which tells me that the cost is always positive and will increase as more shirts are ordered. So basically, the more that I order, the more money that it costs, okay? That tells me about the graph. And then the last one, it is height above water and time. It's a diver. So a diver standing there, he jumps, lands in the water. Okay? That's what the graph represents. It's nonlinear. It's not a straight line. The y-intercept is at 10. What does that mean? That means the diver started at 10 meters. The x-intercept is about 1.8. What does that mean? That means the diver entered the water after about 1.8 seconds. Okay? There's no line symmetry. The height was positive for x less than 1.8 and negative for x greater than 1.8. So what does that mean? That means the diver was above the water until 1.8 seconds. He jumped, took 1.8 seconds, then he was in the water. The height increased until max at 10.5 at 0.3 seconds, then decreased. So that means the diver jumped at 10, he went up into the air a little bit, and then he came down to the water. The diver would continue to go down for some time, then would come up. That's what the end of the graph would represent. So it represents the diver would hit the water and eventually some point in time would come back up to the surface, okay? So all of that describes that graph. So it's not just about the data, it's about interpreting what that data means. That's the important part. So when you can explain what the graph is, then you understand what the data is telling you. Okay, so don't make it harder than it is. Just interpret what the graph is about. All right, and that's the answers.